session. You may be seated.
Did a recommendation.
Your Honor, our client's family is coming up. If we could just wait a minute.
Oh, sure. Let me know when you're ready.
Thank you.
On the record, defendants present, all counsel present for both defense and the state. The jury's not in the courtroom. I've been advised they've arrived at a recommendation, so we'll have...
I apologize. His mother's parked in the car. This is too.
Okay, all right. Go off the record again. For the record, all counsel present, Mr. Tisdale's present, the jury's outside the courtroom. I've been advised they've arrived at a recommendation, so we'll have the jury come in shortly and receive their recommendation. If either the state or the defense wants them to be polled, I'll be happy to poll them using 7.12, the dialogue for polling the jury instruction. I'll ask the state first and the defense. If neither side requests polling, I won't do it without being asked, but if either side requests it, I'll be happy to do it. Then, once that's done, I'll read 4.2, the instruction upon discharge of jury, and excuse the jury. Now, I don't want anybody saying anything, making any gestures, signs of approval, disapproval, acting inappropriately in here to either Mr. Tisdale, the lawyers for the defense, or the state, and certainly not the jury. Do not say anything, do not make any gestures, do not show any sign of approval or disapproval while court's in session here, especially while the jury's in here, and until I excuse them. Now, whatever their recommendation is, it is what it is. I'm sure they brought their best judgment to bear, as I've asked them to do in this. But I don't want anybody to say anything or make any gestures or say anything to Mr. Tisdale or any of the lawyers, and certainly not the jurors. If you feel you can't comply, or any of the families, of course, please, if you can't comply with that or control yourself, I'd ask that you step outside now. Otherwise, I expect you to behave yourself, please, while you're in here. Mr. Bagadol, y'all ready to have him come in?
We are, Judge.
Mrs. Saldana, the defense ready?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, please bring him in. Okay, thank you all very much. Thank you all. Have a seat, please. Ms. Aranda, I understand you all have arrived at a recommendation. Okay, if you'll hand the form there to Mr. Riles for me, please. The advisory sentence appears to be a proper form. It's signed and dated by Ms. Aranda, our full person. If you publish it, please, omitting the caption.
Yes, sir.
We, the jury, find as follows. A majority of the jury by a vote 9-3 advise and recommend to the court that it impose the death penalty upon Eriese Tisdale. So say we all, this 9th day of October 2015, Irene Aranda, foreperson.
Thank you all. Have a seat. Thank you. Do I, the counsel, wish a jury to be polled? Mr. Bagadol?
No, sir.
Ms. Saldana?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Members of the jury, I'm going to ask each of you individually concerning the advisory sentence. It is not necessary that you state how you personally voted or how any other person voted, but only if the advisory sentence as read by the clerk was correctly stated. And I'll do my best to pronounce your names properly, of course. Mr. Graffinino,
Yes, sir.
do you agree and confirm that a majority of the jury join the advisory sentence that you have just heard read by the clerk?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Ms. Lloyd, do you agree and confirm that a majority of the jury join in the advisory sentence that you have just heard read by the clerk?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Kirby, do you agree and confirm that a majority of the jury join in the advisory sentence that you have just read by the clerk?
I do, Your Honor.
Mr. Moulton, do you agree and confirm that a majority of the jury join in the advisory sentence you have just heard read by the clerk?
Yes, sir.
Ms. Aranda, do you agree and confirm that a majority of the jury join in the advisory sentence you have just heard read by the clerk?
I do.
Ms. Laut, do you agree and confirm that a majority of the jury join in the advisory sentence that you have just heard read by the clerk? Ms. Stottlemyre, do you agree and confirm that a majority of the jury join in the advisory sentence you have just heard read by the clerk? Ms. Curtis Moore, do you agree and confirm that a majority of the jury join in the advisory sentence that you have just heard read by the clerk? Mr. Denmark, do you agree and confirm that a majority of the jury join in the advisory sentence that you have just heard read by the clerk?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Rivera, do you agree and confirm that a majority of the jury join in the advisory sentence that you've just heard read by the clerk?
Yes, sir.
Ms. Gettler, do you agree and confirm that a majority of the jury join in the advisory sentence that you have just heard read by the clerk?
Yes, sir.
And Ms. Arca DePayne, do you agree and confirm that a majority of the jury join in the advisory sentence that you have just heard read by the clerk? Members of the jury, I wish to thank you for your time and consideration of this case. I also wish to advise you of some very special privileges enjoyed by jurors. No juror can ever be required to talk about the discussions that occurred in the jury room except by court order. For many centuries, our society has relied upon juries for consideration of difficult cases. We have recognized for hundreds of years that a jury's deliberations, discussions, and votes should remain their private affair as long as they wish it. Therefore, the law gives you a unique privilege not to speak about the jury's work. Although you are at liberty to speak with anyone about your deliberations, you are also at liberty to refuse to speak to anyone. A request may come from those who are simply curious or from those who might seek to find fault with you. It will be up to you to decide whether to preserve your privacy as a juror. I want to thank you all again for your service and imposition on your time. I hope it hasn't been too much of an imposition on your time and been an interesting experience for you. You all are going to be free to go. Make sure you collect your things out of the jury room before you go, and they'll walk you all downstairs to your cars. Thank you all very much. You're free to go. Watch your step for me one more time. Jury's been excused. I think it's appropriate for y'all to submit sentencing memoranda. How much time do y'all request to submit the sentencing memoranda?
I'm sorry.
I would think it'd be appropriate for both sides to submit a sentencing memoranda to the court. How much time do y'all think you would need to?
Well, I guess the first thing we probably should do before that is set the Spencer hearing.
That's next, but we can set that.
Whatever time they need, because obviously my memorandum will be based upon responding to their mitigators. So I would ask for maybe 30 days after, however long they need, if that would be.
Okay. Defense, how much time do y'all request for a sentencing memorandum?
30 days, Ron.
Okay. When do y'all wish to, and you can think about it, you don't have to tell me right now, when do y'all wish to set the Spencer hearing? You want to think about it, or you want to pick a day out now?
We'll think about it, Judge.
State's okay. Okay, if y'all give it some thought, I'll send out an order allowing the defense 30 days to submit a sentencing memoranda, and we'll get together next week sometime to discuss a Spencer hearing date.
And we would ask that you adjudicate the defendant and remand.
Mr. Tisdale, the jury having found you guilty of murder in the first degree as alleged in the indictment, aggravated assault with a law enforcement officer with a firearm as alleged in count 2 of the indictment, possession of firearm or ammunition by a convicted felon as alleged in count 3 of the indictment, and fleeing or eluding a police officer with lights and siren as alleged in count 4 in the indictment. I'll adjudicate you guilty of each of those offenses. He'll be held without bond pending sentencing. Okay, thank you all very much. We'll be in recess.
Media people here, Mr. Backer, I'll address you too. So.